Hey guys, Journey to Truth is going to Hawaii. Join us in 2026 for Journey to Truth's first ever vacation conference on the Big Island at the beautiful Queen Emma Community Center in Kona. Enjoy Hawaii as we travel to sacred sites and connect with our Lemurian past and reactivate the land. It's time to get our bodies moving and take a boots on the ground approach to the awakening. We'll also be making a trip to Volcano National Park to pay our respect to Pele, the goddess of fire. We'll then journey to the water for an ocean adventure with our multi-dimensional aquatic family. We'll gear up and head to the harbor as we set sail under the sun for an activating day on the water while we experience the Hawaiian ocean life like never before. Enjoy Hawaiian sunsets and walks on the beach while connecting with Soul Family and learning a few things from our amazing lineup of speakers. Aloha! Grab your ticket today at journeytotruth.online and join us for this once-in-a-lifetime activating getaway.
That's no moon. It's a space station.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Just a quick reminder, tickets are on sale for our Hawaii retreat / conference on the Big Island, April 20th to the 24th next year. It's right around the corner, and we are offering a $200 discount, or a chance to get a $200 discount if you purchase your ticket before or on Black Friday. All of that information is below in the description at journeytotruth.online. We can't wait to see you there. It's going to be here before you know it, so grab a ticket and come hang out with us. Also, we have our documentary private screening premiere here in Sedona on January 9th about the Secret Space program. It's called Behind the Green Door, A Lifetime of Silence. And if anybody wants to be a part of that special evening, you can grab a ticket on our website, journeytotruth.online, or the link will be below in the description or anywhere on social media. Tickets are selling fast for that, actually. So there's not many tickets left. It only seats 40-something people in the theater. So if you want to come out and be a part of that, we would love to see you there, but grab a ticket now. And that being said, today we are joined by Ryan Kalish, who is a former Major League Baseball player who won World Series titles with both the Boston Red Sox and the Chicago Cubs. And he's had a number of surgeries that kind of forced him to retire. And I suppose that you had a spiritual awakening and you started remembering your mission here on earth after that. And it's a whole wild story how that happened. But before we get into everything, I would love for you to explain, well, first introduce yourself and then explain to us and the audience kind of what your career was like in the MLB and what that was like retiring and having this experience.
Yeah, so appreciate you guys having me on. Thanks for taking the time. Yeah, so my career was definitely a fast and furious one. I got drafted at 18 years old, so I skipped university altogether. And then I made it to the majors at 22 years old. So pretty quickly through the minor league system, getting to the big leagues at that age definitely showed like the talent was there, the work ethic was there. And then from that moment on, I ended up having 13 surgeries between the age of 22 and 29. So it was a lot of rehab, a lot of surgery, a lot of time off, a lot of comebacks were made. Like, when you take off anywhere between 6 to 18 months recovery, and then you go back into the minor leagues, which every time was like AAA. It's like the level before the majors. And then you kind of figure it out pretty quickly and you're good enough to play at that level. You don't want to quit, So I kept pushing my body. By the end of it, when I had to retire, it was like way harder to retire than it was to make any of these physical surgery comebacks. Mentally, coming out of that, it was immediately met with, suicidal ideation, like emotions bursting out of like from nowhere every single day. It was like a death, like the death of an identity as a 5-year-old boy. So yeah, from then, I ended up getting a Pilates degree because I just needed to kind of move on from that, from the baseball world. And then that was where, towards the end of that Pilates degree, that's when the spiritual awakening happened. Um, it was really intense. There were psychedelics involved. I was smoking marijuana at the time, kind of, but really doing well, if I had to say. Like the Pilates degree, I was going through really fast. I felt really good. I was like feeling like I was up leveling my consciousness. And then that's when everything took a really wild turn because I'm not even a religious guy. I've never really been. Um, and all of a sudden, one day I woke up after, enough LSD. It was actually days prior. I woke up 3 days later and I just had like this overwhelming feeling that I was Jesus. And it's actually a very common experience. More I hear about it. People, when they get to this, they kind of express this connection with the divine as either like, I am God or I am Jesus. And what ended up happening was I really wanted to help people, but I had some friends who were concerned, obviously, because I'm Ryan, I'm not Jesus. And all of a sudden, I found myself tricked into a mental institute in San Francisco, which was, it's something we'll get into today. But if you're going through a big spiritual awakening and you end up in a psychiatric ward with real suicidal people, people going through all sorts of things, and you have 3 or 4 roommates, you have nurses checking on you throughout the night. It's really not a good place for someone who's going through a big spiritual awakening. And so, anyway, this event spiraled me kind of out of control. It really confused my reality. And yeah, there's a lot of stories in between that time and now. So I think that's a good point to pause. But yeah, it's like it was a very wild ride. Very thankful for the baseball. And yeah, the spiritual awakening thing, yeah, has been such a journey. It's been 7 years, so we can get into it more.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And well, I'm just out of curiosity, are you affiliated with the MLB at all anymore or in contact with anyone from your previous life?
I have a one friend that I'm still in contact with, but no, like there's not that many people that I'm in contact with at all.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just interested. Yeah, I'm interested to know if these people in the major leagues, if other people are having experiences that they can't talk about because it'll jeopardize their career. And I didn't know if you were bonding with anyone like that.
You know, I haven't really heard that much about it, to be honest with you. I'm like, I have a few friends who follow me on Instagram, and I'm like pretty sure they probably think I'm pretty crazy for the life I'm living now, um, which obviously we get into. But yeah, I think it's like pretty far out for a lot of people what I've gone through.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, to the normal average person, it does seem insane and sound
Sure.
insane, but it's not. And we understand that as we start to embody things like you did, like the Christ consciousness and all that stuff. So I guess let's rewind and explain kind of, what you were feeling whenever you had that awakening that led to your friends tricking you into this mental institution. And I have some questions about your time in the mental
Sure.
institution as well.
Yeah, so one of well, obviously, like I said, I expressed, "I am Jesus." Like, he's back within me. I was so at that point, when I had that realization, I was also still smoking marijuana, which if I could go back in time, I would have realized that that was actually really not helping me at all because when you do want to change the world, as if you're embodying Jesus, he's going to be a rebel. He doesn't really like the system. It's almost what got him killed in the first place. He was very outspoken for poor people. So one of the things I did at the time was I took out $10,000 in cash and I was walking around San Francisco helping people. And this was like a huge red flag, especially when you look up bipolar disorder. Spending sprees is one of like the top um, indicators that psychiatry will use to label someone as bipolar, which is something that I've been studying recently, and we can get into that more. But yeah, that was one of them. And simply just saying the fact that I was Jesus. Um, so it was like a really, yeah, it was kind of funny too. The one friend who was, I mean, I have nothing but love for him now, but at the time, he was actually the friend who introduced me to LSD, and he was a psychedelic guide therapist. So for him to trick me into psychiatry was a very interesting inversion in the thing, because it's kind of against what he stood for. But people don't really, it's such a big experience that society doesn't really understand what's happening very well. Um, so yeah, like if I had a wish, it would be that like soon people start to make facilities more apt for this sort of moment where it's like in nature, you're actually looking at the spirit of somebody. I think that, going into the psych ward, you're dealing with psychiatrists who are learning pattern recognition and memorization from a university. And then on top of that, they have pharma influences. They have companies that want to make money. So yeah, it didn't really feel like a place that was really hearing me.
Right. So what was okay, when did you have the realization like, okay, I'm not actually Jesus, but I'm embodying this Christ consciousness energy? And because I understand, like, it can sound crazy if someone's going around saying I'm
Sure.
Jesus, you know. So
Yeah.
what
So that
yeah.
actually, I mean, that's still another long story. I had this same event happen to me 3 separate times in the last 7 years. The most recent one being in February, which I know we talked about um, previously. But yeah, it's this time around, I finally kind of got it. Like you're not actually Jesus. What's being asked of you is to study the Christ consciousness, study who Jesus was, and live out his intentional teachings, not religiously, but for people, like standing up for people, showing what Jesus like service may have looked like in 2025. So that's essentially where I've gotten to. And it's like, it really does feel super in line with who I am anyway. I mean, even dating back to times when I was playing baseball, I was doing service work. Not really, sometimes being asked of me, but many times voluntarily. And even throughout when I was 18 years old, my best friend's dad in baseball was like, if you want to be close to God, when you see somebody in need, give them a five. So I've been like kind of doing all this previously before, all that. And baseball is a really selfish life. It kind of has to be. So to come out of that and go through all this process. So yeah, like, now I'm really out there in the world serving the least of these, as the Bible says.
Right. And just I don't know if you noticed it, Aaron, but it sure looked like a little orb flew past behind him.
Yeah.
Just a
Yeah.
mi Did you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like some
Orb.
sort of orb flew past behind you. I'll
I
see
see
if
it
I
on
can
the
find that in the recording. Yeah.
replay. Yeah.
Yeah, so
You
that's
mean right now?
yeah, yeah, just
While you were talking.
while you were talking, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
so if we want to get into orbs,
yeah.
that's a
Y
part
Oh
of the
yeah.
story too.
yeah, so well,
Totally.
of course, I have a lot of questions, but we might as well segue into that now because I know that is part of your story, yeah.
Yeah. So that was a part of the February awakening when essentially I went down to the beach one morning. Um, and I just felt that exact same feeling that I had experienced 7 years prior, that I was Jesus. And I was like, whoa, whoa, what is this? Like, I don't really need this. I don't even want this. And at the time, because here in Thailand, marijuana is legal. So I had had like years and years and years off from smoking. Now there were no psychedelics involved, and I was doing fine. And like I went down to the ocean in the morning and I had that feeling again. And I was like, oh my God, no. So like immediately it's like, okay, stop the weed. Like no more weed at all. Now the next day, my wife and I kind of got into a bit of an argument. when you're trying to convince somebody that you're Jesus, it doesn't work. Okay. It's like
Yeah.
it doesn't work for anyone who's ever tried. And I know there's people out there and it's like a really taboo thing to talk about, but I kind of want to be a beacon of love and hope for those people. Like, anyway, so my wife asked me to leave the house and I never go outside at nighttime. And so when I left, I went down to the beach. And as soon as I got down to the beach, unmistakably, these two orbs appear right over a mountain, like off to the left on the horizon. And I'm like doing the blinking, like, this can't be real. This can't be real. They're not moving like a star. They're much brighter than stars. They're really low. They're not high up. And they kind of just come like right into my, right in front of me. So what I ended up doing was I ended up walking all the way down to the quiet part of the beach where it's actually a national park. There's not going to be any people around. There's nightclubs to the left, national park to the right. And I walk down and they just stay with me. And I'm like freaking out. Like, what is going on? Like, and then what happened was is when I got to the end, I just stopped and I just locked in with these orbs. And basically it was like a very telepathic feeling message, like, it's time for you to take this Christ consciousness, this feeling of closeness to Jesus, and it's time for you to walk like him on earth right now before it's too late for humanity. And I was like, what? Like, this can't be real either. None of this can be real. So I kind of, I had this really distinct feeling that something was watching me behind me in the woods. And I turn around and sure enough, there was a being glowing white just watching me. And as soon as I saw it, it kind of stepped behind a tree. I tried to walk into the woods to say, hey, and it wasn't there. By the time I turned around, the orbs were gone. So I went home and I was like, all right, well, you're going to, no more marijuana, stop all of it. Like, this will just go away. And actually, kind of the reverse happened. The sobriety, which, yeah, it's been however long, 8 months or so, zero marijuana, nothing, none of this stuff. And it's actually given me just way more clarity on what I needed to do because I'm the sort, I'm a baseball player, right? So you give me a challenge and I kind of like that. My life kind of had been feeling bland for all those years. So like now it's like, all right, well, personally, I feel like Jesus is very misrepresented. I'm curious to find out what this means. So I've been on that journey this entire time. So yeah, the orb visitation was just super bizarre at that exact moment to come out of nowhere. So I'll be interested too to see what happened behind me in this.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
interesting. It almost wasn't even like a perfectly round orb, but it was kind of almost like an apparition or something moved behind you.
Mhm.
It was very clear. Hopefully it picked up on the recording. But yeah,
Wait,
that's really interesting to me. Aaron, did you have any questions for him before we go on?
Um, so you had that happen. Had you ever had any so-called UFO sightings or orb sightings previous or since then? Or is that really the only one?
yeah, that was. I had some feelings of like in some of the previous Christ consciousness awakening that maybe there was some sort of like messages coming on Instagram, but never an orb.
Mhm.
Never an orb. Um, so yeah, that was just it was one and done. I've been, kind of, I mean, I've always been into the sky and I'm always still looking. But
Right.
I'm like, there's almost whatever, like and kind of learning more and more about orbs and how they communicate. Telepathic sounds like the way. So I am
Yeah.
getting more and more feelings of like, that was probably real. And there's a trust factor going on right now with my cosmic journey and what I'm here supposed to do. So I'm
Right.
just following it. It's kind of childlike fun.
So, in
Yeah.
what ways do you feel Jesus is misrepresented? Because I know it's very skewed through some of the churches out there. And, and you're saying you're not religious, you're not going to church, but you're still having this connection, which says a lot. So how do you feel it's being misrepresented, and what would you tell people as far as how to connect otherwise outside of the church?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, I think Jesus or Yeshua, because he did have a name outside of that. I think that he was a guy he was, we have the lost years. So he potentially, as we understand, potentially went to India, learned a lot of things, maybe even took psychedelics. We don't really know. But I think what he understood was there is a way for humanity to transcend fighting, wars, religious division, borders. And he came back and he was speaking that sort of message. And obviously, like, I don't necessarily, the Bible's been translated many times. I'm not going to say, like, I think the Bible's useful. And then the, the thing that really kind of, the Jesus dying for our sins line, for me, feels like an invitation to bypass the true spirituality and nature of essentially an activist for humans who are suffering. And I think that's what Jesus was. I think that he was killed for very radical, outspoken things against religious and political leaders. And then his story was essentially hijacked in the future. So that's like the main base point of what I think. I think it's yeah, I think his message, I think he really would want people to get out and serve. I think he would want leaders to stop thinking about profit, and think about preservation of humanity. I don't think he was religious at all. I think he was like, love God and love your neighbor. He didn't specify which God. It's like you don't need to belong to any faction of religion to follow Jesus at all, in my opinion. So that's like the basis of what I believe.
Right. And
Yeah.
just
Spot
as you
on, in
were
my opinion.
Yeah, spot on. And just as you were speaking, another orb went down past your chest. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, you saw
Yep.
it too? Yeah.
Confirmation.
You got some activity over there while you're talking. That's amazing.
Good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I resonate with everything you said, absolutely. And that's very. I think that anyone on that journey comes to that understanding, who is truly like looking in the mirror and facing themselves and having these awakenings and these epiphanies and stuff. I think we come to that conclusion, like it's within us, and we can embody that energy, which is what you're trying to do and help people now. And I understand that you're doing that in Africa and other places. You're still continuing that journey, trying to, live in service to others.
Yeah. So I feel like too, for myself, I'm a privileged American who had everything I needed growing up, and I got to play at the highest level. And the things that I feel like Jesus would want people like me to do is eventually realize that, like, all the consumerism, all the items in the world are not what is going to leave behind a better world for my own daughter who's here now. That's a huge part of this journey, is having a kid and being like, what world are we going to leave behind for her and her kids, and stop just thinking about like my time on earth and just enjoying it for me. So it's an energy as well. Like, people are kind of like, oh, you know, why are you posting you feeding a kid on the street in Africa? Or why are you doing this? Like, it's an energy as well. It's like to show people what it will take. It's not gonna, like, what it will take is, you know, it's pretty radical action. And I also think that selling people on the idea that Jesus is just gonna fall out of the sky and save us is just another bypass of what he really wanted.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, precisely. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just giving your power away and waiting for, it's like this savior complex programming, and where everyone's waiting for
Yeah.
the savior, and like, no, like we're the savior. We can do this. We can
Like,
change it.
right, and like you said, it was a hijacking of his message and distorted and turned into in my opinion, the exact inversion of the core of his message, which was self-empowering, and that you don't need anything outside of you. It's all within you. He was saying that he said the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven is within you. And that got inverted into you need a savior outside of you, and I'm your savior, and you're nothing without me. You're worthless without me. He said the exact opposite of that. And like
Yes.
you said, he was not religious. He actually railed against the religion of the time and the Pharisees of the time and all of that. And that's what got him killed. And
Yeah.
then, so the system killed him because he was a threat to the system, because he was actually teaching the truth to people, and people were waking up and becoming awakened and enlightened and whatever you want to call it. So they're like, we got to stop this. So they killed him. And then they're like, now we got to hijack his message. And how do we how do we usurp this and merge it into the control system? And that's exactly what they did, and turned it into another religion, which is
Yeah.
not what he taught at all. He taught the exact opposite. And there's still truth in that. Fortunately,
Sure.
some truth still made it through. And I do think some people that consider themselves Christian or religious or whatever religion people want to follow, or church you want to go to or whatever, I think it can still be helpful. It can still serve people at a certain place. But there comes a time where you outgrow that. I think
Yeah.
but it can still serve people if you're focused on the right aspects.
Sure.
Right.
I agree with you. I agree.
That was me the first 25 years of my life until I outgrew it. And then I had what I call my awakening, and got out of that box. But the first 25 years of my life, I was a hardcore Christian because I was raised that way. And, but I think it gave me that spiritual foundation, which I then realized there was all this dogma and lies surrounding that I had to break out of.
Yeah, and something that so I agree. Like, I'm not saying like the Bible can be useful if you should read it with discernment, and there are truths in there. And now on the flip side, like you said, they've sold you the savior thing. And
Mm-hmm.
now there's been a few things I've picked up on in the last even just few days. There's in psychiatry, they call it like Messiah complex. So
Mm-hmm.
if you start to like want to save the world, they call it that. So they get you in that. And then when you study bipolar, and I'm going to put a post out about this pretty soon. When you study bipolar and you look at Jesus' behavior in the Bible, it's the same. The guy stopped eating. He would he would remove himself. He would isolate. Like he had his, temper tantrums in temples. He, he
Yeah.
did a lot of, like, he was talking about selling your possessions and
Mm-hmm.
giving to the poor. These are all the exact symptoms that if you start doing, psychiatry will tell you you're bipolar. So on that, and I don't know if it's that deep, but it feels like it's probably that deep. Like where you're like, oh, like, let's make sure that we get them on both ends. We sell them the
Right.
savior in religion, and then in the system, that's
Mm-hmm.
insane if you start behaving like him. Because
Right.
the thing is initially, that is how a lot of people behave when they have a big spiritual awakening.
Mm-hmm.
They realize society's inverted and they act out. And it comes off as, they're
Crazy.
insane.
Right.
But if they had a facility to go to and like channel this into something beautiful, and there was obviously like, there's not really, let's say, an industry for people to like become humanitarians like this. It's just not the way. We're about innovation, capitalism, make money, innovate,
Right.
and at the cost of humanity. I mean,
Right.
unfortunately. So
If you're not feeding into the matrix, then they don't want that. They're
Right.
like, oh,
exactly.
we gotta you're a direct threat to the matrix. By
Yeah.
what you went through is a direct threat to the system. So
Yeah.
they're like, we gotta call it disease or crazy or something to be treated, something that's wrong to be treated, rather than, hey, this is something beautiful and we need to help you through this process,
Right.
Exactly.
which is
Which
what you're.
is why you got deceived into the psych ward, which I think actually I think there was probably higher forces behind that, because of your potential and what you were tapping into. I mean, this is a spiritual war, right? So
Sure.
there's entities involved that work through people, and for the light and the dark. So I think that they saw that threat and were trying to put you away. But the bipolar thing that you mentioned is really interesting to me. Because I mean, I think you're onto something there. I'd like to look into that a little more. But
Sure.
when you were in a mental institution or wherever it was you were, what kind of experience was that actually for you? Like, I understand probably now you're looking back on it and realizing how much you grew from that, how much growth probably came from that.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy I went in because I got to see the system from the inside. I got to see how ridiculous it was. Um, and at the time, yeah, I mean, like I told you, I mean, it was just like you just could see, like you have all these walls, barely sunlight, you know, getting labeled after 40 minutes of one psychiatry meeting, like trying to explain this like really deep spiritual experience. And now you're bipolar. Don't let anybody ever tell you that you're not bipolar. This is just how it is for you for the rest of your life. Take the lithium and just go. And like when I left, um, because I've been in the first two times were not for like, it wasn't something that I wanted for me. The third time, I was just so removed from that spiritual awakening that I was so depressed. I needed to like try and not die. My mom was like, we need to help you. Cause I got really sad and really suicidal once I got disconnected from that connection to Jesus and his spirit. So I just saw like more and more that like this was not the way for me to heal. It just really wasn't going to work. I saw a lot of other people. I mean, and for some people, yeah, of course, there are cases where that is necessary. Like people are really down. They need to be watched overnight. But if you're grouping me, a guy who just wants to help planet Earth, with someone who wants to die in the same room, I mean, number one, I'm not sleeping anyway because I'm not used to having roommates. And then you have a nurse peeking in with a flashlight every 20 minutes. Like, do you think that I'm going to heal or maybe I'm going to spiral? Like,
Right.
what do you think is going to
Right.
happen?
How is this helping me? Right.
Right.
Insane.
Exactly. No. Yeah. It's completely.
So
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that's interesting and very grateful that you got out of that situation because that's just no way to live. And obviously, I think you were there for a reason.
Mhm.
It's those darkest moments that make us the strongest too.
Sure.
We have to be spread thin sometimes, and we have to understand, like it breaks us. We have to kind of be broken sometimes to, the ego death and everything that comes with it. So, like, what kind of things are you doing today? I understand that you're doing stuff in Thailand and Africa and other places. Like, what are you specifically doing now?
Yeah. So my next step is India. I haven't been to India yet. Now, I'm not going to mention the details right now, but I'm also working on a fitness invention that I really is also a humanitarian device. I think it's going to really change a lot of things for people and the way they feel posturally, joints, and everything. I'm going over to India to work on that, and simultaneously, India has a really, a lot of opportunity to help people. It's not a place. It has 2 billion. It has so many people and so many people who are suffering. So, like, kind of at the moment, it's like finding the way. That's like being curious, being open, continuing to essentially like show people who I am in my heart of hearts, and just continue to help. Sometimes make videos about what I'm doing, sometimes not. Getting on podcasts, talking more and more about, what I've been through. But again, like the fitness thing is really it's like fitness rehab. I think it's gonna be a huge help to humanity as well. So kind of just, finding the way, man, hopefully, yeah, one of the things I would love to do is speaking engagements, meeting more people that, have finances and want to help the planet. Because like trying to also just show people like you can trust me. There are humanitarians out there who you can't trust. It's actually a really sad, unfortunate reality of the thing. But like, outside of maybe like $2,000 that's been donated to my fund, like all of this is self-funded. It's just like a message to humanity. Like we can make the choice to invert that consumerism, give me more like generational wealth ideology. Because like, what does generational wealth mean if we just destroy ourselves anyway?
Right.
What are you doing with your wealth is the
Right.
important
Yeah,
part.
that's a fantastic point. And, I wonder how you view corporations such as the MLB or NHL or any of the major sports leagues, because we understand there's corruption there, especially the NBA is getting exposed right now. I don't know if you've been following that, but because coming from that world, obviously that built you into somebody. But how do you view that world now?
Yeah, I mean, I think sports are amazing. I think they're, something that if you do have talent that would, you should fulfill that. And at the same time, it's a part of the Roman Empire, like
Right.
distract them with the games, um, and they'll just keep coming, and I think that, the MLB and these organizations, they definitely do, they do good for some situations. Like they do donate, they have programs overseas, but I think it's like again, it's more about turning up the dial, like we really need to like, I keep saying this, but like as humanity, like we really need to take a pause on everything. Like if I had a wish, it would be like, let's just pause the innovation for a minute and like take a step back. Like we don't need a new iPhone that's being built on the blood, sweat, and tears of women and children and men in Africa mining these minerals. Like let's just like step back and take a moment. And I don't think the MLB, the NHL, the NFL are like doing enough. There's so much money going out to these players. It's just again, it falls into that trap that it seems like humanity's in. It's like, um, I know not everyone believes in Jesus, but in America, it's a big one. So like, he died for your sins. So like, you can make those mistakes. And one thing I'll just say, like I've said it on other podcasts, so I'll say it here. When I was going, I was never religious and I was always watching. And in the MLB, they would have chapel every week and through the minors all the way up. And I would watch the guys who would come out of there, out of that chapel on Sunday, and I would count how many of them are being unfaithful to a partner on the road. And the percentage was high. And I was like, aren't you supposed to like make changes? Or are they just going in there and like saying like, oh, please forgive me. I'm just going to go do it again this week. Now, for me, it's like, you should be going in there and like saying like, all right, I made mistakes. Like, how can I get better? And I just saw that like the Jesus died for your sins so you can just bypass your action.
Right.
So
Yeah. It's an abdication of self-responsibility rather than a tool for inner transformation, which is what
exactly.
if you're gonna have a religion, if it's not a tool for inner transformation, it's worthless. It's completely worthless.
Right.
And in fact, it's actually a very negative thing at that point because now you're using it as a tool for your ego or for whatever else other than the spiritual aspect of it, of inner transformation. And that's what Jesus taught, inner transformation. That's true spirituality. That's, if you want to call it religion, that's true religion. Not, I go to church every Sunday and I prayed for forgiveness and got my ticket to heaven. And I'm doing it to look good and to check all these boxes, which is what a lot of people deal
Right.
with.
I'm gonna make a video
But
on this today because of you, Aaron. This is
thank you.
perfect. It's so true. It's like I
So true,
couldn't
right?
have the inner transformation thing. That's what it's about. It's like I actually have a tattoo on my right arm that I got years before all this started, and it says "I ascend higher."
Mm,
And it was about me just trying to become better all the time, like all my
mhm.
actions transforming to become a better guy. So the inner transformation thing is so true, man.
Yeah, and that's no
Yeah,
coincidence that you got that tattoo. I mean, part of
Definitely not.
your higher self
yeah.
understood this path, right? A part of you always probably knew that this was gonna be happening, and I give you credit too for having the balls to come out and just say that, like, "I was Jesus, I thought I was Jesus," and not be embarrassed to say that and make that claim because of how it might sound on the outside, because it can sound ridiculous, obviously.
Mhm,
But what you've learned from that experience is actually crucial, and I think that's the message that people need to hear, because others, yes, there is that messiah complex that we understand. Some people do let it get to their head, and they do take it the wrong direction, and they start embodying it through their ego and not through the heart, right? So, if
mhm.
somebody like you out here is embodying it through the heart and understanding that fundamentally, that's gonna go a long way, and I'm actually very grateful that you reached out to us and that we're having this conversation, because I think it's important. You know, that energy is coming back. I have friends like in the mystic community and other places, and they've been saying that there's a lot more angels here, and they've been seeing like these spirits, and it's almost like, you know, Lucifer's army has been here for all this time, but now heaven's army is like coming, and it's like at this precipice of this
Yeah.
spiritual war, if you want to look at it like that. But I think I've been saying this a lot lately. For the first time ever, or if not in a long time, the light side has an upper hand and a chance to actually make a difference right now, and we have to take advantage of this window.
Uh, Definitely agree with you, man. I think it's like it's time, like it's full speed ahead. And I agree. Like I kind of feel like, especially after February, like it was this weird feeling of like I thought my life was a complete mess. And then I actually thought, oh wow, maybe I never had a choice. And like now I have the choice because it's like, what do I do now? But like in the previous 37 years, like it felt like all the surgeries, everything that didn't make sense, even the psych wards, all of it. It was like, wait, that was like you had like so many dark nights of the soul because what I'm really good at is fighting for something that I want. And as much as like I have issues with religion, what I really just like for ultimate for like even if you're like making mistakes constantly, like I'm not the sort of person that's going to condemn you. Like if you can transform and wake up to it, like all is good, you know, like I don't care what you did like 2 days ago. Let's just like get to the nature of what we need here on earth. And for me, it's just connecting back to Yeshua, the person. I think like a personal story of one person is the most universal. So just tapping into like what he was really trying to tell us was like, we can do this a different way on earth. We don't have to do it the way we're doing. And it's obvious, like we still haven't figured it out. Nothing has really changed since he died. Like it's just getting worse in my opinion. So, but I do believe that, you know, like it is our time for the light to come through and for everything to shift. So I don't know when and how it's going to go down. And you got like everyone talking about third eye atlas or this and that, and like who knows? I love all the theories. I think it's kind of fun, but we all just have to like continue up leveling ourselves, you know, to be a part of that bigger collective awakening.
Yeah, 100%. The theories are fun, but they can also be a distraction, and at the end of the day, it's always about the inner work. I mean, that's kinda like our underlying message on this whole podcast. You know, it's the answer to everything, really, unless you're doing something about your situation, like nothing in your outer world or in the entire world is gonna change, right? And I definitely think that that's pretty much the only way, and taking a step back and actually looking at yourself and leveling up every day, I think that's the way to go. So there's, um It's just a positive message.
Yeah, I think like if you relate it to baseball, one of the things that we always said was, or at least I said to myself, was like, I never have my swing figured out. Right. So like even if I was 4 for 4 the day before and I was feeling really high after the game, at midnight I was like, yo, tomorrow, like this doesn't matter. You know, you have to go into tomorrow's game like you have something to learn and you have to keep improving, because that moment where you like woke up and you're like, my swing is locked in, I'm going to crush it today, I'm going to crush it every day from here on out. That's when all of a sudden you go 0 for 20 and you
Right.
like, you lose it. So same thing now. It's like, you know, I feel like I'm onto something, and I feel like one of the things is like right now, I do feel pretty isolated from a lot of people. But I have this feeling that it's like really deep in my knowing that eventually what I'm doing is going to explode and it's going to help humanity in a big way. And that's all I really, you know, that's what I want. Like, like I can't fully kill my ego in all of this, but I have to come to it with humility. You know what I mean? Like a real nice balance of the thing.
Right.
Because I do want to explode this story, because it's, I think it's like, if we had more and more people, let's say like whatever, you're worth 100, 200, 300 million, and people like that taking like sizable portions of that and creating ways for other humans to, you know, just have what they need, and like sustainable programs. Number one, those people who do that work for the underprivileged are going to feel so good about their life. And it's going to just like create a wave of a collective movement that like, it's not about hoarding wealth, guys. It's not about hoarding possessions. That's what Jesus was trying to say.
Right.
That's not going to make you happy or fulfill you at all. It's
No.
giving it away and helping others, service to others oriented. That's what's going to fulfill you.
Right.
That's what
Sure.
he's trying to teach.
And
Yeah.
and you said something that was really important I wanted to touch on, but I forgot. You know, you said, I don't care what you did 2 days ago, as long as you have the humility to self-correct and you're open to understanding like what you did and grow from it, right? And learn from it and heal. I think that's important because a lot of us are quick to condemn, like you said, or freeze people in time, and that person does one bad thing and oh, they're evil forever. They're the enemy forever. But if we view them in that light, then that's the only way they can show up in our life. So we're not allowing that person the space they need to heal because we're constantly condemning them. So I know like a lot of people in the spiritual community, they have a problem with the term holding space for people, and they kind of laugh at it. Like, what does that even mean? But that's what I think it means. It's not freezing someone in time, and it's allowing them to show up in your life as a better person. Because if you think this person, if they did something shitty or whatever, they stole or whatever it was, and if you think, oh, this person is a criminal, that's how that person's only going to show up in your life as a criminal. But if you think this person is on a healing journey, then you're going to allow that person, it's all energy. You're going to give them the opportunity to heal and grow because you're now creating that space for them and holding that space. That's what I think that means.
You're also blocking any lessons that you could get from that person. Because that's the thing
Sure.
people don't think about, right?
Excellent
Someone
point.
you view as negative in any way, shape, or form, and most of the time we view that as a bad thing, and like we just want to get rid of that person or cut off from or whatever. But what if you viewed everything, and this goes for everything in your life, you view the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, is always working for me, not things aren't happening to me. Like that's the victim consciousness, right? Oh, poor,
Yes.
everything's happening to me. I have no power. What if it's everything's happening for me, including all those people in your life that rub you the wrong way or that you don't are a little bit unpleasant to be around or you don't, whatever. You can still have discernment. You still need to have discernment, but, and you can, sometimes you got to love from a distance, right? But you can say, what were those experiences teaching me? How can I learn from that? And how can I help that person in any way?
Right.
See, you
Sure.
flip everything around rather than like looking at everything like a victim, like, oh, this person did this to me and now I hate them. And that's the victim consciousness, because it's all about how they're hurting you,
Right.
what they're doing to you. It's like, well, how can I help that person? How can I learn
Well,
from this person?
yeah, go ahead, Ryan, if you have something to say
Yeah, go
there,
ahead.
and I'm going to bring a point up. Yeah.
No, I mean, you guys are just nailing it. And when you connect back to Jesus, when he was dying on the cross, he said, "Forgive them, for they not know what they do." It's like, that was
Mhm.
like a lesson in like how we can translate that into today. It's like, well, sometimes people are going to wrong you and they don't, like, it's emotional, it's big, like they don't necessarily know what's going on. And then, like you said, if you can take that, and Tony Robbins said that, like, it's not happening
Yeah.
to you, it's happening
Yeah.
for you. And like, if you can really connect to those things, you can have people hurt you, step back, and instead of holding on to it for, let's just be real, like this really short window of time that we're on Earth. Like, I was listening to Avi Loeb talking today on Rogan's podcast. If humans have been around for 1,000,000 years, for example, that's short in the time
Yeah.
span of where this has been. So our lifetime is like, boom, it's nothing. So, like,
Mhm.
you know, for us to hold on to anything. And that's like one of the things I guess I was thinking about. It's like, yesterday I put out this really tough message on Christians, and I'm like, I'm finding it kind of hard. It's so much nicer for me to express myself with a conversation like this. But like, even though I don't agree with Christians or religions, it's like, I still love them. I still want to see them, even if they want to stay in a religion, it's about connection to, as Aaron said, that inner transformation. So like, even through some of my messaging that is quite tough, it is love at the end of the day. And it's just the game we got to play.
Right. Well, eventually, whatever you're sharing online or whatever that looks like that you're talking about, I mean, it's going to reach the right people. It's not our job to go around waking people up. Like, we present the information, and it's up to them. Like, how they receive that, that's on them, right? And if it triggers them, then actually that's good, because
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
trigger is
Whether they
trying
know
to
it or
teach them something, and they're going to keep getting triggered until they look at that, And
right.
a friend of mine, just going back to kind of what we were talking about, she's a channeler. Her name Katie,
Sure.
Katie in the chorus. We've had her on the show before, and I think she's a credible channel. And we were on a trip in Belize, and she started channeling some beings that were like this Mayan, like I don't know who they were, like this very ancestral race. And I asked, even the voice that was coming through her was like a man, a very masculine voice.
Mhm.
And I said, "What can I do to help humanity right now?" And it came through in this, like, deep voice. He's like, "Men on your planet are weak." He said, he said, "You think muscles make you strong, but muscles don't win the war. The war is fought. The war is won with your heart, and you have to
Yeah.
love your enemy. You can take on the hardest opponent with your heart, but not with your muscles." There's this weird. It wasn't
Yeah.
weird. It was actually really profound, and it made a lot of sense because we constantly are focused on like external things and like what we look like and how we can appear as a warrior. Yeah, maybe some of that helps us feel or embody that energy, but it's really all fought with the heart and lived through the heart.
For
That's the
sure.
ego's that's the ego's version of strength. That's what the ego thinks strength is, right?
Right.
But
100%.
the false.
So you could essentially take down some 13-foot tall muscular giant if you're operating from the heart.
For sure. We've seen that in movies, we've
Right.
seen that in movies. So yeah, I think that's what it's all about. I think it's about connecting back to the heart. I also like, it's again, it's just getting back to like, I'm always learning. The wisdom is always coming. The moment that I think I have it figured out, I'm just like, no, you don't. Like, don't let that mindset creep in, because that is a part of why I travel so much too. It's like, I learn things just by what I'm like really visual. I don't really read or write much. I've never been one to be into those sort of things much. And like, my wisdom is really like, I still am on the phone at time, probably even more than I even want, but a lot of like these travels is eye to eye contact. Humanity has lost the ability to hold eye contact. It's like just getting out there and connecting to human beings all over the world. And it's like at this point, like, obviously, yeah, I see what race someone is, but I don't see that anymore. I see like what's going on internally. And, I think like, we all are neighbors on this planet. We are just a speck of sand in this massive place. And like, I think one day we're gonna evolve into that. I hope in this lifetime, but you never know.
Right. Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, traveling changes you as well, just traveling in general,
Mhm.
because
Sure.
it's so you'll never have a proper understanding of the world through your phone.
No.
You
Yeah.
just simply won't.
And the one
And
town you've never left,
yeah,
so which is a lot of people, unfortunately.
and you're
Yeah.
spot on with the eye contact thing also, because I know people that avoid eye contact or even human interaction, like these introverts that will order DoorDash and like wait for the guy to leave entirely before they get the food. They don't even want to make a phone call. They want to order on the app. Like they don't even want to speak to people. This is something I know. I know this is happening because I know people that are like this. And that's concerning to me because we've all seen the movie, like, well, maybe not all of us, like Ready Player One, where all these, it's like a dystopian future. Everybody is isolated, but they're living the world virtually through this
Yes.
game, right? And they're only connecting that way, but nobody's talking in real life. I mean, we're
And they're
getting
living in
there.
and they're living in squalor and decay and the actual real world because they don't even care about that world anymore.
Right,
Yes.
right. I
And
mean,
that's
we're
what you see that like everyone's on their phone, everyone's in this virtual fake world, and then they're letting their real world decay
Oh,
right,
for
and
sure.
their inner world decay.
Yeah, I
right.
saw that when I came back. Even coming back to this, I was gone from the US up until March for like 4.5 years. And some of the things I had to come back to realize that news was fake.
Yeah.
That's how distorted our realities are becoming based on, certain issues. Like it's just wild. Like, so you have to go, if you really want to know, you got to go see it. And you have to also just like I mean, I just feel like there is a control group. They want a narrative spun.
Yeah.
They have the access, the finances, the technology to do it. So if you really want to like see through the BS, you got to go see it for yourself in a lot of cases.
Mhm. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's we just interviewed a guy, a former Marine combat pilot, and he said he was fighting the war in Korea and watching what was on CNN over there from the United States, and he realized like they're totally misrepresenting what we're living right
Yeah.
now. And that
Middle East, actually,
in the
not
middle,
Korea.
and I'm sorry, in the Middle
Yeah,
East, yeah.
it's
Mhm.
all good.
But that was his awakening moment whenever he was over there fighting, and then he saw what CNN was spinning to the American people, and he's like, "That's not true," you know? So
Sure.
so that I mean,
That's
that
what that was like the switch that woke him up to be like, "Oh, there's." And what he said he realized is it's not even just like on the level of the media. He's like, there's a group working through the media that's well above them and well above the government even that is pushing agendas through the media.
Oh,
right,
for
And that's
sure.
it. That's
Right.
what we know. That's the cabal, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, right? That's what he woke up to way back in the early 90s, just
right,
by
Yeah.
watching how they were reporting things and what was actually happening.
yeah, yeah,
And if you don't think that messages from 2,000 years ago are distorted, and the
mhm,
message from yesterday, like the message from yesterday is distorted. So like kind of
Right.
at some point really need to wake up to that.
right.
Right.
Yeah, and I wanna go back to sports for a second, we're talking about because I agree sports are actually fundamentally crucial for our growth and experience here. But obviously, the Roman circus and the major league sports have taken that ball and ran with it. No pun intended.
Sure.
They've unfortunately, it's almost been weaponized in a way. But
Yeah.
there's going back. I don't. This is interesting. This is another reference to my friend who was channeling the same person, and I
Yeah.
said, I asked, I said, "Do you guys play sports?" And they said, "Of course." And I said, for fun or competition? And they said, is there a difference? And that hit me because I was at a time whenever I was like really starting to understand the corruption within the sports world and all this stuff, and it almost made you feel bad for putting your kids in sports and all this stuff. But then I'm like, no, that is crucial. That needs to happen, but we need to change the system that operates whenever you become an adult, right? And you aspire to be join these leagues. That's the system that needs to be changed, not the sports.
Yeah, and again, I mean, it's a lot about education, like, whatever route you are doing, like, I mean, like, right now, for example, like, we take my daughter, she's 2.5, and we take her to the beach, where it's pretty dirty here, like, there's national parks, and, like, there's plastic everywhere, and she's, like, already understands that, like, that's not respectful for, that's not respectful to nature, and so, like, if you are in, like, getting into that sports world, like, again, it's just, like, there's not a real, like, education around, and even in, like, not necessarily even in schools, there's not an education around humanity. It's, like, completely not really there. You just kinda have to, if you don't have that in your heart, it's not gonna be really taught to you. So, like,
Mhm.
especially with athletes, like, setting up foundations, like, and real ones where, like, you're not just donating to some charity, you know? It's like you do it yourself, take your time, your energy, and some focus, and, like, get involved in the thing. It's, an education that's being missed.
Right. It's
Yeah.
interesting to me too that most of the time they're donating to a charity for one because it looks good, but two, there's tax incentives. There's tax,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I mean the incentives to donate. Like that's the complete wrong reason to want to do it. Oh, I'll get a tax break. Okay, yeah, give this much to that foundation.
Right.
But
No
On
doubt.
top of the
So
dark rabbit hole of charities where they're actually just used as fronts for really dark, horrible things. And
right,
that's a whole other topic, but there's
right.
also
and
that going on. You think you're donating to a charity and it's actually you go into this horrible stuff. Yeah.
so I have a question for you guys. With all the different people you guys have met, because I mean, it just looks like you've interviewed so many interesting people. Like, what do you think is going to happen with disclosure and, like, humanity's future?
Well,
That's a
it,
big question.
I think. Well,
Yeah.
like I said a minute ago, I think that we're in this window now where we have the upper hand in this spiritual war, and there's a lot of indicators that point to that, but you have to be in your heart to see that because it could look like
Mhm.
quite the opposite because it's this evil system that's being uprooted. So it's going to be spun by the dark players that still have some sort of control into something negative. They're going to spin something good that's happening into something negative, and the people who aren't aware are going to believe that. And they're going to think it's just perpetually getting worse, but really, we're jumping off that hamster wheel for the first time ever. And the people who can see it are embodying that and stepping out and doing things like what you're doing. And as far as disclosure goes, this is something I'm realizing after my years of research and everything that we do is that it's all the information you could ever want about any subject that you can ever think of is already available and out there. Somewhere there's a whistleblower or a document, a declassified document,
You just gotta
somebody
find it.
talking about
There.
experiences. It's all there, but you just have to
Mhm.
know where to look because it's not showing up in our schools or
Sure.
on TV.
Yeah. No one's handing it to you on a silver
Right.
platter,
So
basically.
I would arguably say that disclosure has happened.
Yeah.
Sure.
But it's up to us to piece together that history and present it now to the people who don't know that. And I think that's kind of our goal right now, my goal anyway, because we can keep waiting for new people to come out with new information, but all that so much has been forgotten that and these new people don't know where to find it. So we're creating an avenue for that. And I think that's where we're at. I think it's happened, but it's up to us to keep it alive. It's all energy.
It's happening
Yeah.
too, in the present because I mean, and you can even see the progress that's been made with, where we're at in history. It's like UFOs and ETs are being talked about on the freaking mainstream media and all over the place and
Yeah.
government, they're holding hearings and there's, you know, even though there's a dog and pony show going on that level, obviously, and a fake
No
disclosure
doubt.
narrative going on, at least it's being talked about, and people, it's no longer something that the majority of people either ridicule or dismiss, which is what
Sure.
I would say 20 plus years ago was mostly the case, where 20 years ago, like, no one was talking about this stuff. No one in government, no one in the media. Like, you go out in the public and you'd be lucky to find one person that knew what the hell you're even talking about, right? You're talking about UFOs or disclosure. Now it's like, and it's great too, because now the mainstream media is losing control. They're losing people's attention. Everyone's watching like Joe Rogan and podcasts and Tucker Carlson, whatever, And guess what they're talking about? This stuff mostly.
Yeah.
Not mostly, but
For
like
sure.
a lot, right? And people are hungry for this stuff now. And I think it's that we're at that point in history where and it goes hand in hand with the awakening and ascension, right? Those aren't two separate things, in my opinion. Those are different aspects of the same awakening and ascension. I guess you could say the spiritual growth and the spiritual awakening and the disclosure of truths, of disclosure of everything, because it's not just ETs and UFOs. It's just the truths of everything that have been going on our planet for a long time and that are still going on and in our galaxy and universe, right? So to me, it's disclosure is an inside job more than it is something outside of you, right? So the more you awaken, and the more humanity awakens inside and transforms, like we were just talking about, the more you're going to naturally start seeing external mirrors of that internal.
Yeah,
and that's true disclosure to me, and that's where I see it happening. We're moving there.
Right.
It's going in, and I think the future is actually very bright, despite a lot of these negative, dark kind of things that we're also seeing. I think that's coming to the surface to be seen, felt, and cleared, and transmuted. But we got to go through that. We got to deal with that,
which could take longer than we want it to.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because like for me, it's man, just seeing what's going on in a place like Sudan and Gaza and all these places. Like, can we just transcend this one yet? Like,
right.
Why can't we? Like, that's what Avi Loeb was talking about. Like, when are we just gonna stop with this $2 trillion spent on defense every year and just explore and find out more about human history and find out how we can create a space station and get to Mars? Like, what are we just gonna
or clean up our own planet and take care of the people on our own planet first?
Yeah,
get to that level first, and then and the sad thing is like when you get to a certain point in your research or whatever, you realize, oh, we've had all this advanced technology actually for a long time, that we could have 50 plus years ago cleaned up the whole planet, fed the whole planet, done that. We could have done that 50 years ago, but it's all being held in these deep black programs and then in fact being weaponized. It's been weaponized against humanity instead of being used to benefit humanity. But I think I have hope that is changing now, but it's not humanity waiting for the government to do it.
Well, and I think
for sure
we're the ones that are doing that.
And I think to take this to the next level, people like Ryan that are, having these experiences and realizations that, the religions are part of the problem and they're part of this box that we're being confined in. Once people can break free from that and have experiences like you, Ryan, and start sharing that, that's actually more important than disclosure, because that is directly impacting the inner transformation. Because once you break free from that and understand that you hold all the cards, right? You hold the power. You're the one you're your own savior, right? That's when the world changes. Once more and more people have that epiphany, inevitably things change. And you won't have anybody walking around with this dualistic mindset anymore and funding these wars and these weapons of mass destruction because they're living in fear constantly of what the enemy might do. If everybody starts to have that individual transformation, that's what changes it. But that's going to take effort and time and years. I mean, who knows? And it's not going to happen overnight. If we want the technology, that infrastructure isn't even really there yet. And it's going to require everybody to have a dark night of the soul and look in the mirror and stop pointing a finger outside themselves. And really, that's what this whole conversation has been about. But I think,
Right. But
I
there's
think,
always something you can do
yeah,
now instead
right.
of waiting for the med beds or waiting for the technology.
Mhm.
Stop waiting, start doing what you can do now. And that sounds like that's exactly what you're doing. So thank you so much
Yeah,
for stepping up on your mission there and being a leader in that regard. Cause that's
Yeah,
it,
I
man. You're doing
appreciate
it.
I appreciate it. Yeah, and then like in the future, my hope is to obviously do more and then be there for people. I love conversations with humans. It's like I just love to hear like what someone's going through. I've made a really good friend here in Thailand who's you know like waking up on the same path, and I'm here for him, and it just feels so good. So like that's what I was in the locker room. I was there for guys like that for whatever they were going through. So
right.
hopefully I can step up in that regard for a lot more people.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful. And it reminds me of this Instagram reel that I saw. It's this guy got to the end of the rabbit hole. He was like, I got to the bottom of the rabbit hole. I learned about all the darkness and then now what? And it's like, create.
Yeah.
Embody the light that you were shown through that darkness and
Mhm.
create with it. And I
Yeah.
think that's what we all need to do is start and stop consuming reality and start creating reality.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, he said, why do I feel worse now? And
Right.
then the other guy he said, well, it's because you're
I
in
saw that.
consumer. You saw that. Yeah. Because you're in consumer consciousness. You need to move into creator consciousness.
Right.
He's
Mhm.
like, what do you mean? And then he explained what the difference between many people are stuck in consumer consciousness.
Right.
And that's that downward spiral. We need to move into creator consciousness. And that's the upward spiral.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
And I think that requires some risk too, like it's not about because the generation and like my parents' generation and I love them. And they're also like stuck in like get the job, save for retirement, this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, for me, I have enough right now, like to create, first of all, do what I love, which is help people, create an entire, essentially personal brand around who I am. And I don't know what that looks like as far as like making finances, but I also understand that that will probably come, there's a creation aspect, there's the light aspect. Obviously, my fitness invention is a part of that creation. So like breaking free of that fear mindset that you just have to get that 9 to 5 job and have health insurance this one way. And like, no, like there is another way to do it. And it does require a leap of faith. It requires some risk. And that's one of the things like I'm really into now is meditation. Meditation, I love to try and activate my pineal gland. I'm obsessed by this, but more so even just to keep me in the present moment. Cause at the end of the day, like, actually, Andrew Tate said it, and I'm not like, I haven't been a huge fan of him, but he seems to like be going through something himself.
Once in a
And he
while, he
said,
says some on point
yeah,
stuff, though.
yeah, yeah. And he said like the other day, he's like, um, you know, every time I worried about something, it was never real. It just ended up vanishing. And like, of course, like, yeah, I mean, if you have to worry about like just putting your food on your table, that's one thing. But for me, I have the resources to try and create something beautiful for humanity. And a lot of times when I worry about something, like I'll look back on that a week later and I'm like, oh, that didn't even happen. Like it happens all the time.
Yeah.
None of the worries were real.
Yeah. The problems
Right.
exist in your head, and then
Right.
you can spiral in those thoughts if you're not stopping and pausing and meditating
Yeah.
or whatever it looks like, being present. Because I think I have to do this sometimes because one of the things I've struggled with through the years is spiraling in my own thoughts and overthinking things and creating problems in my head that aren't there. So I resonate when you say that. But the way I pull myself out, and because I know I can pull myself out because I'm aware of what's happening, and now I stop myself. But is being absolutely present in the moment, and I'll just observe nature, a bug, a leaf, and
Yes.
if you can shift your focus on something like that, even momentarily, it can pull you out of the darkest hole. It's amazing. And you get lost in observing the flow of a leaf or just watching ants do their thing or whatever it is. It's amazing to me, that presence, how healing that can be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
think I think we're nailing it today, guys.
Right. Yeah,
And we,
so
all of us, yeah, it's like,
by the way,
man,
if you do write a book, if you ever do feel like you're gonna be a writer, it needs to be called Conversations with Humans. Because
let's
in
have
the
conversations with God, like
yeah,
Neil Donald Walsh.
yeah,
Yeah.
because we're moving into a time, or we're even in a time where conversations with humans are becoming less and less. So it will actually be really impactful title and book.
Sure.
I like that, actually.
Conversations with humans. Because I mean, yeah, people would be like, "What? What's that?" Because they're gonna be talking to AI and all ChatGPT and
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. And like, yeah, I kind of said that earlier. Like, I'm not a real writer or reader. I just like to talk to people. Like, I can like, I say it to, people suggest books to me all the time, and I just say, no, why don't you just tell me about it? Because I'll get to read it through you.
Right.
Just give me the summary, right?
Right. Well, and there will be a download in that. But, with technology, talk to text, you can speak your book into existence too if you really wanted to.
That's actually a really good point. No, man, yeah, it's I will do a book at some point. Just like, wow. And it feels really good to be at a point in my life where I have so much to do that, because like when baseball ended, like I told you, like, I mean, I'll just keep it even real. Like I had like access to a gun, and I was sitting with a gun, and I was like, I think maybe today is going to be the day where I'm just gone from here. And somehow I made it through that. And I had like no idea what I wanted to do in my life. And then to be here all these years later and feel like I have too much to do, it's such a nice feeling. It's like so beautiful to have like this I want to do and that and this. And like my daughter's here. And it's just crazy to see. Um, yeah, for anyone going through like the dark night of the soul, if you really are feeling down, you can make it. You got to just fight. You got to
Yeah.
just not let that dark energy to say like, that day is here. It's time to go. Like you can make it on the other side. It just requires like some real like fight, you know?
Hmm. Well said.
Yeah.
Amen to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that you shared that because
Powerful.
that's a powerful message, and a lot of people get to that point. We all contemplate things, and it's important to have those success stories and to just let people know that
Sure.
there's a way out, because there
No
always
doubt.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, so I guess we're going to start wrapping this up. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Any final words before we wrap it up?
Yeah. I mean, I guess, well, at first, again, appreciate the time and just getting back to humanity. If you're seeing this, if, it doesn't always require funds, money to do humanitarian acts or reverse the inversion, even if like you just are someone who sees somebody, you're walking down the street and you see somebody who looks like they're having a tough time, like you can access that Christ consciousness by just lending an ear and giving someone advice. It's not always about, for me, like I travel the world, I go to extreme lengths. Um, and even more so, like there's probably a food kitchen right down the street from wherever you live. And there's an opportunity to access the teachings of Jesus. And it doesn't matter what religion or faith you believe in, like it's just about humanity. So every little act really counts in this fight. We don't have to think, the more people that get away from like, oh, I can't be, there's nothing I can do. We're just screwed. Like the more we get away from that mindset and just put in little action by little action by little action, the more we can do for humanity. So that's kind of where I want to leave it at today.
Absolutely. There couldn't be anything more important. Yeah, I love this. This conversation has been enlightening, and I'm so glad that you had the courage to come out and share your story and just what you're doing for the world. And I think it's amazing, and just keep it up. We need more of the masculine living in their hearts. I mean, that's part of the attack on humanity was eliminating that alpha male and the masculinity, right? Because there was a takeover. But we can come back and we can start showing people that men can love and men can operate from their hearts and do things that once were laughed at, by your fellow workers, coworkers, or whatever.
Yeah.
We can embody that and show people, you don't have to be embarrassed living this way. Just shine your light, and that's how we make a change. So
Sweet. Yeah. I hope we can find the orb. I want to see what you guys were talking about.
Yeah, there was 2 of them, and I clocked them so I can go back to roughly the timestamp and look. So,
hopefully they show up on the actual video.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
Yeah, whenever we're done here, I'll go back through real quick and see if I can locate them, and I'll send them to you.
Nice.
Awesome, but yeah,
guys.
thank you for joining us today. And is there any information that you'd like to leave with the audience? Contact information or social media accounts or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, Instagram is probably going to be the easiest way to follow like what I'm doing and contact me. I'm really, I'm pretty up on that. I am Ryan Kalish on there. So yeah, feel free to reach out. I'm always open to meeting new people. Love to learn. Every human conversation is a chance to learn. That's like it really is. So yeah, just appreciate the time, and I hope that you guys find this useful, whoever's listening.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you all for tuning in. We love you. We can't do this without you. And like he said, we hope you found something in this conversation that is useful and beneficial to you. So this has been amazing, Ryan. And
yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah. And we'll definitely stay connected. And this has this has been really cool. So I guess that's it. Good night, everybody. And until next time, have a great evening. Hey guys, Journey to Truth is going to Hawaii. Join us in 2026 for Journey to Truth's first ever vacation conference on the Big Island at the beautiful Queen Emma Community Center in Kona. Enjoy Hawaii as we travel to sacred sites and connect with our Lemurian past and reactivate the land. It's time to get our bodies moving and take a boots-on-the-ground approach to the awakening. We'll also be making a trip to Volcano National Park to pay our respect to Pele, the goddess of fire. We'll then journey to the water for an ocean adventure with our multi-dimensional aquatic family. We'll gear up and head to the harbor as we set sail under the sun for an activating day on the water while we experience the Hawaiian ocean life like never before. Enjoy Hawaiian sunsets and walks on the beach while connecting with Soul Family and learning a few things from our amazing lineup of speakers. Aloha! Grab your ticket today at journeytotruth.online and join us for this once-in-a-lifetime activating getaway.